Welcome to the community conversation, learning from our past and present while moving forward to create our future. In these regular conversations with individuals, we will explore their struggle, achievements, courage, and disappointment that shaped and guided their faith, family, and community. Today, with us, we have Akil Muhammad Hasnali Remtullah. Akil's journey is one of those journeys of a voluntary worker who quietly provides his time and services to the community. He is one of those in whom volunteering for the community was instilled from young age in Moshi, Tanzania, and which he continued when he first arrived in the UK, age 13, and continues still to date. Nowadays, he is regularly seen at the Mayyat ceremonies at Hujjat, Stanmore, assisting in the process of the burial ceremonies. Akil is married to Marzia, daughter of Muhammad Iqbal and Zinat Merchant, for 35 years, and he says to me, still counting. Alhamdulillah.
I joke with my wife that you get less for murder, but she wraps my knuckles for that.
Good for her. They have two children, Asad Ali, who is a doctor, and Zamina Fatima, who is a maths teacher. In this conversation, we will explore his journey from his birthplace in Moshi till his residency in North London. Welcome, Akil, to Community Conversation.
Thank you.
So, how are you, first of all?
Alhamdulillah, Alhamdulillah. Generally okay.
Generally okay. Health-wise is okay?
Alhamdulillah.
Alhamdulillah. Now, I see you are committed to be present in the Mayyat ceremony at Hujjat. How did this come about then? I mean, how come that you are now, because before you were not there regularly?
No, that's true. It's because I've done this for a long time, back when I was in Birmingham, after having carried on from my marhum father to help in the committee. And it is only because Razabai, who does a fantastic job.
No, we are talking about Razabai Jessa.
Razabai Jessa,
yes,
sorry.
Right, yeah.
Razabai Jessa, and many before him, obviously, was taken ill, and so I was just filling in, really.
All
so
right,
it's not a permanent job. It's simply helping.
How do you find it, though?
I generally find this work fairly rewarding. You might think that's a bit morbid to say that.
Not at all.
But
Not at all.
I feel the marhum can't speak, can't do anything for himself. And it is that realization that are you really going to end up like this? Maybe you can help somebody who is totally helpless at this present moment.
What a nice philosophy that you have developed.
So that's something that's in the back of my head, that you're helping somebody who can't help himself, and besides, you're performing wajib kifai, which then you're doing your duty as well.
Well, you're doing your duty and you're relieving the community of the. So we are very grateful to you, Akil. Yeah, no, seriously, I mean that.
I just hope that's it's acceptable, because in those situations sometimes you can get too comfortable and actually forget something very important and fundamental, which there are rules against if you did something that.
It's quite a responsible position.
It is. If you did something that is not correct, you might have to go and revisit, or actually have a lot of rules that will mitigate that.
Right. I remember giving you some money downstairs, and instead of giving the right change, you overdid it. and you gave me extra money, and you had to come all the way back home.
Yes,
So-
but I mean, that part was.
No, that happens.
No, I mean, that part is, as you say, a responsibility, and it's sadqa money,
Sure.
which is even heavier
A burden, isn't
to
it?
make a mistake
Yeah.
about.
Okay, Akil, thank you. I mean, we will revisit some of these things. What do you do presently? I mean, what was your profession?
I actually studied and did engineering qualification, civil structural, and ended up working for the Prince's Trust.
What trust?
Prince's Trust.
Princess Trust.
Not princess, but Prince's Trust.
Princess.
There's a
Prince. Okay.
Prince's,
The male prince.
Yes.
All right.
Prince's Trust, which actually is helping a lot of charitable organizations.
But this was your job, actually.
This was one of my first jobs.
Right. Okay.
And then I actually went on. Actually, I go back on that. First of all, I worked as a design draftsman
Where?
in Kidderminster,
All right.
not far from
So Midlands.
Birmingham,
All right. Okay.
near Worcester.
Hmm.
And that was literally for designing, interpreting the calculations and the designs of structural engineers and putting.
And you have to be quite meticulous in that area, because if you get the figures wrong,
Well, the figures are done, but the job actually entails a lot of rule of thumb in putting in the steel work into concrete to make it reinforced
so
concrete.
it has to be exact, isn't it?
Yeah, I mean, there's so
Margin.
many square,
Yeah.
so many square millimeters of
All right, okay.
steel.
Mm-hmm.
Then you have to provide that steel in the concrete. So that sort of thing.
So are you still doing it, or
No.
You then subsequently went to do work in the Prince Trust, yeah?
Yes, that was when I actually was out of a job
All right.
and did that for a while, although it was a paid job.
Paid job, okay.
However, that wasn't my main thing. My main thing was then to work for this civil structural engineering
All
firm
right,
for
okay.
a long, long time. And then I went off and got married.
Mm.
When I got married and came back, he said I hadn't got a job anymore.
All right, so
So that's when
and then the charity, Prince.
that's when, if I'm remembering the sequence correctly, that's when I did that.
So what do you have retired from that sort of work?
I've not retired. I actually left my job.
So what do you do now?
Currently, I work with my wife, and I am a sort of a backup support for her financial advisory.
I know. I think
job.
we will come to that at the relevant conversation.
So I look after the background.
Right. So
back-
that's what you
back
do at
end
the moment. Yeah.
of stuff.
Let's begin your life as a child. Now you were born in Moshi.
Mhm.
You still remember Moshi?
I actually remember quite a lot of Moshi because it wasn't very big. There was located at the foothills of Mount Kilimanjaro.
That's right. Yeah.
So the weather and conditions absolutely pristine.
I mean, so when you reflect back, this is something which is very, very sort of pleasant memory now.
Yes, although I'm told I was very naughty.
But you don't look it.
No, looks are deceiving.
Deceiving. All right. Okay.
So I'm told, especially by my father's friends who remember these, because Dad passed away when I was very young, and they recall and tell me that,
how mischievous you were.
how awful I was.
So in Moshi, you did your primary and secondary education, or you had to then leave Moshi for anywhere else, or you continued your education completely in Moshi? What happened?
What happened was that I started the primary education there and did a little bit of secondary here.
What? Where?
Here in London,
Right.
in England.
In England. So that would be where?
That was in Birmingham.
In Birmingham. All
So
right.
when I say secondary, I mean sort of very last tail ends of like sixth form and that type.
Right, right, okay. And then I take it that you then continued to do your H&D, which you talked about.
That's right.
Yeah.
I did my OND and then studied.
So
towards-
when you, I mean, reflect back, when you were doing your primary schooling in Moshi, did a bit of secondary in Moshi, and then had to do your other secondary education here, difference between the two in any sense, and how did you cope with it?
Huge amounts. I remember my first day at school in England.
You stood up, I think, when you were talking to the teacher. I
No.
did.
No, I didn't.
Yeah.
But it was quite. I was quite a circus thing amongst the students.
Circus?
Yes, an object, a thing that they could play with.
Curiosity.
Sort of. I'd never seen snow, and it happened to snow, and so I was a bit, perplexed as to what's this white stuff coming down. Also,
But talking about that, just one. When I first came, it was winter time almost, and I used to see,
Yes.
so I used to think so many people smoke.
smoke.
But it wasn't the case.
Yes. Mine was a similar case too, and that cold then was really cold, and we were slightly north than here. Then
Right.
that's even when it snowed, it really snowed.
So this was your first sort of experiences in UK.
And then there was some cruelty as well, because I was stood there minding my own business, and some child actually wrapped snow around a stone, and it hit me square in my eye.
Must be painful.
And oh yes, and you asked about the difference of education over there and here. That was my that was the introduction I got, and of course, thankfully, I enjoyed that actually. The teachers liked me because I was very engineering.
But it made you welcome to another world, didn't it? A different world.
It did even then trigger the thoughts of the difference between human behavior, which lasts and goes on till today.
Yeah. So I want to now come to your parents, Muhammad. Your parents' names, Muhammad and Layla Hassan Ali Remtullah, and you have 3 brothers.
I do.
Right. Yeah. How your parents and sibling influenced and shaped your sort of life? Can you recall any sort of or the role played by the parents?
Well, my parents weren't all that strict in
your upbringing.
In the upbringing, in the discipline, generally.
Right.
However, when he caught me smoking, he might take his belt out and belt me. So, wrong things were wrong.
So it was very black and white.
Oh, absolutely,
Right.
absolutely. And maybe that's, maybe I should be thankful for that, because that's actually helped me see things either black or white.
Do you still see that way, or there's nuances there now?
There is the grey area. However, personally, I think there's either black or there's white. There's halal and there's haram.
Right. Okay.
In that sense.
Yeah. So basically, you prefer a moral code which is very, very clear.
Clear.
Yes.
No
you don't
ambiguity.
Want this ambiguity. Okay.
And of course, Islam teaches you that too. Shak nahi rakho. Karo ya na karo. You decide where
Right.
you're going.
And if the intention is clear and clean,
It's
fine.
valid.
Right. So
If
you
the
then
act is valid.
yeah. Now, what about siblings? Any sort of influence from there?
Yes, I mean, with my older brother, he was sent off to boarding school in Arusha. And
Because of what?
because Dad wanted to further his education, and he was the older.
Ah, right. Okay.
And,
So he then went to Arusha boarding school. Did it belong to the community, or?
No. It belonged to. I think it was a private thing. It was paid education.
All right. Okay.
And in that school, I understand from him that there was the president's son and that sort of.
Oh, so he mingled with those type
in
of.
those types.
Right. Okay.
In those types, and then often during the holidays, he would bring some of the
Friends.
close friends home for a home visit
Right.
for a week or two.
Okay. So now in 1975, when you were 13 years of age, you migrated to Birmingham. Now, to join your dad. Okay.
Yes.
Share with us what happened. Why did your dad had to go to Birmingham, and why then you had to migrate to Birmingham?
It was a life of luxury for him in Tanzania. He'd work from 12 to 2 and 2 to 4,
Right.
and then off to tennis. It was a family business of spare parts and what have you. He was a director. And my uncle, his older brother, decided that enough was enough. At 39, he wanted to retire. So he retired from the bank, the local bank. Actually, it was the Standard Chartered Bank, if I'm not mistaken, and wanted to retire to England because we're all British subjects then. So he actually left. He had a very young family, and he went off to Birmingham.
Birmingham, UK.
Yes. No sooner had he landed, he had a massive heart attack, ended up in hospital, didn't even go home.
Really?
Yes. 3 months later, he passed away. So it was at 39. So tragic, tragic, tragic. And in between that, in the months between when he left, I believe it was 72 December, the whole community, he was quite a reciter. And he recited.
Now, this is your uncle.
Yes.
Right.
And he recited with Ummi's father, Marhum Ghulam.
This is Ummi Merali.
They were
who is
very close
Zakira
friends.
here,
Yes, very close friends. And they recited very well. And I remember the whole community had come out to bid farewell to uncle
Right.
and family.
Right. Right.
It was Eid.
Either day.
I think it was Eid day when they were when they left. If I'm not mistaken, that is. So the whole community came. So everybody had that affection, affinity, and lagniyati, Uncle Sate,
Right.
because the community was small, and he was a prolific reciter.
Right. So they all came to the.
Bid farewell.
Yeah.
Along with Uncle Ghulam, he was excellent.
Now, Uncle Ghulam is Ummi's.
Ummi's father, tomorrow war ubate jai, lokanu awad samrine.
Right. Okay. So then your dad had to.
So my dad was called because uncle was in hospital. This is Askar uncle. He was summoned here. He came here after having discussed with his brothers that the main reason for uncle to have come here was actually to say, I will retire, I will then receive all the children from the family, and I will look after them while they study.
So he would build a base here. Okay.
Yes. Well,
So that's the rationale for
him to have come.
And then father followed.
Father followed.
And then presumably
Uncle passed away.
And then you all
And then
joined the dad.
And then
Joined Dad.
Dad decided that he wouldn't go back because
Small family.
the young family,
Right.
uncle's young family, what's the point of them going all the way back now and starting a new life there?
Right.
So they were very young. I believe my cousin was only 3. There's 2 boys and 1 girl. The girl was only 3.
So then they were all brought up by your dad.
I say brought up.
But he was
a figure
yeah.
there. They could always consult.
Yeah. Okay.
Obviously, auntie was there. She only passed away a few years ago. now.
Right. So then you all came in 1975.
We then came here, came to Birmingham.
So what was Birmingham like in 1975?
Just a few years before then, when uncle passed away, Dad had to really struggle. He didn't even know where to buy coffin for him.
Right. It was that sort of strange.
Well, yeah, there was no community, no
yeah,
nothing.
Yeah.
Although the community should be grateful to Marhum Fidaus and Fazal,
Right.
uncle to Mehdi Fazal,
Yeah.
who had based himself in Birmingham. And then when people that actually left from Uganda were in contact with him, he would suggest, come this side because I can then
So he attracted people to come there.
help you.
Yeah.
Eventually that area then housed the first ever mosque in Birmingham.
That's right. Yeah.
For
But before that, I think they were used to have their
several.
gathering.
We,
And I think your family also played a part in that.
yes, my cousin was our local imam, if you like.
That's how it used to be. Local
yes.
imam emerged from the community, from our own local community. Yeah.
Yes, but he had previous training already.
Right.
Because I call her grandmother, Amina Bai Ladak, that actually taught Quran to almost the entire Moshi community.
Okay.
And also grandmother to Ummi.
Right.
So we are related in a way to the Ladak. My grandmother and Mamdali Ladak Marhum were
closely related, not in a way.
Yes, yes. Huge families in those days.
In those days, yeah.
Yes.
Akil, so I'm just interested now in your dad had to come here and then he took over the burial of it. You just mentioned about the coffin. So he had to presumably get the local authority get involved and certificates and all that. So how did he manage?
He didn't take over anything. It was him. That's it.
All right, so he had to do everything.
It was him because he had to find out
Hmm.
what
To do, how the burial process works.
worked, how the local regulations affected things, and subsequently help anybody after he gathered his learning. Ironically, the day he died, he was arranging a funeral of a child.
Okay. And he died of heart attack? Sudden death?
He died of a massive heart attack.
Oh, okay. So, from what you're saying to me, Muhammad Bhai
Died at
Remtullah,
43.
43?
He was
Young.
43.
And he passed away when,
1982.
1982. So
Um,
Muhammad Bhai, in that case, must be the first Khoja Shia Ishnashris who possibly understood the process of the burial in United Kingdom. Would you say?
I would say for our Khoja community.
Around that area, maybe?
Possibly,
Yeah,
yes.
okay.
Because obviously there was a community in London already. If I could tell you on marhum uncle's burial, he had to tell the community in London, Abdul Takim.
And also Nazir Bhai Jessa also was very much involved with the burial and his sister's
I
burial
can't
at the time.
recall him having come to Birmingham
okay.
for this funeral.
But he used to do that sort of work
You may
here.
be
yeah.
absolutely right. However, Abdul Takim, I remember because I've seen a photograph of Uncle's Mayyat being
Right.
carried,
Mm.
and Jafar Walji and people like that were about.
So anyway, as far as the burial process is concerned, it made him a local expert then. Everyone asked his advice.
It did. It made him a respected opinion, shall we say?
I like that. That's good. That's a very good expression.
Not an expert, because he hadn't had all of the scenarios, you know, like a post-mortem, this, that, the other, and all sorts of, you know, burnt bodies, dismembered, and you get all sorts of things.
Now, Akil, because you arrived in 1975, Birmingham, you must have seen the evolution and the growth of our community. Maybe you can reflect on how it began to sort of change to what it is today. Any sort of reflection that you want to share with the audience?
The main reflection I have is the engagement of the youth that has just escalated.
What, in Birmingham?
No, generally.
Generally. Okay.
General youths, especially here, our youths are absolutely fantastic.
But during those times, in those days, yeah.
In those times,
from 1975
in those
onwards till you
times-
left
in those times,
2004.
I have seen the elderly, who were the elderly then, yes, help, lug carpets over their shoulders, and they got on with it.
All right.
Yes, because we went from hall to hall to hall for Imam Hussein's majlis. And I remember Birmingham, Mah Mubarak, Ramadan. I forget his full name, but
Khoja family?
Babu Bhai Hirji.
All right.
I think his name was Abdullah Hirji. Babum Sumari, they used to call him.
What, Babu?
Babum Sumari,
Okay.
because he was so thin.
So,
Sumari meaning chunk.
Oh, right, okay. This is a Swahili word.
Swahili word.
Okay.
But he gave his life to the community.
Okay.
So
talk to us about this personality.
So did his children.
Right.
And we helped them help ourselves.
So talk about this personality who contributed in a way. I mean, I haven't heard of this person.
Babubai Hirji.
Yeah, Babubai. But he's probably quite well known in Birmingham community.
Haji Abdullah, oh, I'm so embarrassed, I can't remember his name properly. I think his name was Abdullah Hirji.
But from Uganda originally?
I believe so, yes.
Right, okay. And so he contributed quite
tremendously.
right
So
in upbringing the community.
So did in those early days, so did my aunt Zerabai.
Full name is Zerabai?
Zerabai Askar Ali Remtullah.
Right, okay. Who taught Quran?
No. That was Aminabai Ladak in Moshi.
Moshi, all right, okay.
She seems to be, whenever you talk about Moshi, she seems to be the seed where everything germinated from.
Who is that person?
Aminabai Ladak.
Aminabai Ladak, okay. And Zerabai's contribution?
Zerabai was my aunt,
Right.
who, along with Aminabai Velji, who is Afzal Velji's mother.
Right, okay.
Aminabai and Zerabai, my aunt, were sisters. So they decided to buy a house next to each other, stick a hole through the wall,
Right.
and the mosque was started. That's
This
where,
was in 70s probably?
yes.
Right, okay.
People used to gather in their houses, either here or here.
Ladies and gents? Right, okay.
So I'm talking about a few people, and then thereafter, Jarur Pari for Eid namaz. So we gathered a few people by then. Shabir, my cousin, stepped up and he said, "I will."
Shabir Remtullah.
Remtullah,
Yeah.
I will lead the namaz.
Oh, okay.
You see, the Husseini society in Moshi and many Husseini societies in Africa.
Yeah, many Jamaats had that, yeah.
We were taught to lead namaz, we were taught to recite dua, we were, all similar to what's going on
So
now.
people stepped up for that. Yeah?
People actually stood in queues to
Enthusiastic. Yeah.
Exactly. And then until you were actually ready, you wouldn't be allowed into the hall.
Okay.
Yes.
Okay.
So,
So the spirit was quite a different spirit, would you say, or about the same spirit as we see today?
the key thing I want to portray here is that there wasn't time to get astray.
Okay.
In those days.
What do you mean
In
by
those days
yeah.
in Birmingham.
What do you mean by that astray?
No community, no friends of your kind.
Mm-hmm.
Where
So-
do you go?
So you were more
It's-
likely to get astray?
Exactly.
All right, okay.
But the parents thought it important, like the old adage, where there's a khoja, there's a community. Where there's a khoja, there's a mosque.
But I just want to extend this discussion. The spirit which was there before the formation of the Jamaat and institution and the community, the voluntary spirit at the time, much more sort of active because they wanted to build a community. Once we have built the community, the spirit is not as much. The voluntarism perhaps
Drops
is not,
off.
yeah, it drops off. And if, for example, even what you are doing in the kafan burial process, you don't see young people coming forward for that. And so I wanted to ask you. I mean, this is my reflection now because I have seen people saying that young people are not coming forward for this sort of work, kitchen work, this work. Now, so if 50 years down the line, who do you think will bury our community? Would it be a Ghusl Kafan committee? Would it be a undertaker, maybe of a Muslim undertaker somewhere? Or would it be an artificial robot? It's a genuine question.
I don't find this funny at all.
No, it's not funny. It's a serious question.
So if we say then, now, and later, future, at the moment, at the moment you have, I've totally lost it actually.
Ghusl Kafan Committee.
Yes, at the moment you have different distractions. Where I meant to start with was before. Before, there weren't all those attractions that pulled away the youth. So those youth, this is to my mind, to that time the youth were engaged. They had, shall we say, nothing better to do. Now, I'd rather watch football, although the football was on before. But now there are more attractions.
So it's very attractive now. Okay.
More computer games, more this, more that, to take away that youth and not think that this work is more worthy of their time than that vocation. In the future,
so what will be the consequence of that?
I think you're absolutely right. You see it even now. Some of our members, I don't know, it's only an observation, but I hope I am wrong. Some people don't even like touching the dirty mud on the qabr to recite Fatiha. I find that a real insult to what you believe.
Okay.
I find that marabut chafu thai jaise, mari patlon chafu thai jaise. I find that revolting.
So this is a challenge now for us. This
I
sort
mean,
of
you can't teach these things.
no, but that's understandable. But in the future, if we don't get it right, we may find ourselves, the community, suffering in that case.
As you say, will we pay somebody to do it?
That's right. That's what I'm saying.
Then shall we just turn up when there's food, or what? You know
but
where
this
it's
is
going.
it's very serious.
It makes my blood churn inside.
Okay.
To
Now
even
I want to come to
think.
another. Okay. You also worked with MAB, headed by Dr. Muhammad Taqi Walji. Now I'm just moving away from
long time ago.
Yeah, but you did. Now you were in the team of headed by Dr. Muhammad. So share, how did you find working under Dr. Muhammad Taqi Walji? Now he was for our audience. He was a chairman of the Medical Advisory Board for a long period of time.
Yes.
A long period of time under Marhum Mullah Asgar and beyond.
Haji, Haider Haji.
That's right, Haider Bhai Haji.
Marhum.
Yeah.
I found those days one of the most satisfying days of my life.
Right.
Why do I say that? I seriously think that the risk that Allah was giving me was through the barakat of those jobs. I seriously believe that.
Right. And rightly so.
Absolutely. Any barakat thi mara gar mar risk out of.
Right. Yeah.
There's no question. I used to work 30 miles away in Kidderminster. So 30 there, 30 back, and then I don't go home. I used to go and visit the patients. Mine was a welfare job.
Right. So under MAB, those patients who came for treatment,
Yes.
you used to do the
I used to
welfare,
go and visit them.
Yeah.
And dressed in my work clothes, they often called me the doctor. And that's a standing joke till today.
Right.
Doctor Sahab bhai bhi gaya the.
So you got a nice accolade then.
No, I did, but I couldn't answer all the questions, you see.
Of the clinical nature, right? Yes. But what was it like working under Dr. Walji?
It was an absolute joy because you didn't feel that intimidation of knowledge.
Mm-hmm. He treated you like a colleague.
I think more than that.
All right.
I think he treated us almost like his equal.
Okay.
And your opinion really mattered.
Right.
Which he has that. He has that quality. In fact, this was the MAB. This was the MAB, the huge spending arm of the World Federation. I think once upon a time, you as Secretary General or Hasnain Walji as Secretary General, I think may have even called it the flagship.
Well, I think my predecessor called it a flagship. I think Hasnain Walji.
Arm of the World Federation because we were so active.
Most active board.
It was also during the time that Saddam's issue was going on with Iran.
And of course also East Africa had a terrible time with health issues, and therefore they're relying upon WFO.
Advice and so on. Yes.
No, thank you. And no, it's good to know. He's a lovely man to work with, Dr. Walji. Yeah.
Absolutely.
Now, I'm coming to the end now, but I want to ask you this. You moved to London in 2004. And again, as I understand it,
death followed me.
No, you followed the death, I think.
Yes. This time, the main reason for the move was my father-in-law suffered heart attack.
Who is your father-in-law?
My father-in-law was Muhammad Iqbal Merchant.
Okay. So he passed away, did he?
He didn't pass away then. He used to work in a bank here, and he had actually been in England a long time, and actually lived just this side of Stanmore,
right?
And worked for £5 a week. So it was those days.
Right.
And he was an accountant, so he worked in the bank. And when he only had 2 daughters, one of which is my wife. And so she felt that she should
come and help,
and not actually go out to work in the same industry. So she found more satisfaction in sort of carrying on with her father's gathered clients and look after them.
So she saw the clients of her
although
dad.
she had she was
a
she
position
looked after 20 odd branches of banks.
Really?
Yes.
So she decided to sort of change her career from there to this one here.
So
although the work involved the same
she's
thing.
An accomplished bank manager.
All right.
And an area manager of banks. And so, but she decided that it was time to help, and I agreed with her. And I lived there until my job released me to get a transfer in to.
So when you
London.
moved here, I'm sorry, I got it wrong. I think when you moved here, father-in-law was still alive then.
Absolutely.
Right. Okay.
He passed away much later. So,
okay.
Yeah.
And so then you decided to now settle here in North London. Hujjat became your Jamaat.
Yes, and in between we used to visit London a lot, especially in the time of Mullah. I used to do crazy things like come here for the weekend simply to listen to his weekend lectures.
All right.
For Fajr.
Yeah.
In those days, the theme going was the history of the Anbiya.
Mm.
I don't know whether you remember that.
I remember. Mm.
I mean, you were in Essex then, and people used to come from that far even.
Yes. Mullah attracted a lot of people. Yeah.
Oh yes, and you remember those things till now. I wish I could put my hands on some recordings because I'd like to refresh myself.
No, but that's available as far as I know in the website now. They've created
they've added those.
So you can get.
Inshallah, I'll look up.
Okay, the last question that I had to have, because I think we're running out of time. Your advice to the leaders and members of the community, whatever in your reflection of your contribution in the community that you have made so far, you have anything to say about our community? Any constructive suggestion that you may have? If you can recall, if you can't recall, I can understand.
I mean, I am of no important suggestions or anything of that sort. However, as you say, it's only
every suggestion is important.
The thing is, it's so many observations that you make, and you find, maybe this might be where we've gone wrong. That's why the second bit has not gone right. So, and we do live in situations like this, that if that was right, that would have been right. So that's what I'm going to give advice about, and that is, make sure that your first bit, your bunyad, is right.
The foundation.
The foundation is right.
Okay.
In that, I mean, for us, for our youth, I sincerely wish that all the efforts that the youth are making come to fruition,
Inshallah.
and they keep this up, because it's so important. It really is. Other communities I see, I mean, I go all over the place, and I also go outside the Khoja circles, and I find that element really lacking. And with that, I find the youth of that community had so much potential, but that's not realized.
And opportunities as well.
And that doesn't come out. And I seriously believe all this takes work. And the youth here have learned from our parents, our grandparents, and are actually putting in that effort because they've realized. I mean, with teachers like Mohsin by Dharamsi and people like that who had so much to give.
Quite a number of youths.
And who actually started a lot of this revolution, as it were, in the youth.
Well, may it continue, because I think that we need a revival every now and then to make sure that the community progresses in the right way. So thank you very much, Akil, for this some very useful insights that you have given along your journey. I'm sure, just like yours, there are so many other individuals just like you have got so much to say as well, and inshallah they will also come forward to give their life journeys as well.
I'm just grateful that you think my contribution's worthy.
Well, I think the audience will judge that. The audience will judge that, but
because I don't really consider myself an expert at anything.
Well, but you gave good advice. But anyway, nevertheless, I think we are grateful to you, Akil, and the fact that behind the scene there are so many volunteers like yours who contribute, so that it keeps the community motion, the wheels moving forward.
Yes.
And I think that's very important.
Yes.
So thank you very much for sharing this wonderful insights, some of them very, very inspirational as well. Thank you, and may Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala bless our audience and bless you as well.
Thank you.
Ilahi
Thank
Amin.
you for asking me, and I'm glad I plucked up the courage to actually
Well,
turn up.
you have plucked up the courage and you have done wonderfully well.
Inshallah.
Thank you very
Jazakallah.
much indeed.
Jazakumullah.
Jazakallah.